Joining me now in studio is Maiya Cologne. Maiya, thank you for coming on the show and making the trip to come and see me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was definitely worth the drive from Rochester.
You are so welcome. Now, what was your first thought when Maiya was born?
You know what's interesting is first-time parent, Maiya was my first, and I didn't really have great thoughts. She arrived a little bit early, and I was a mixture of terrified and excited that I had this beautiful little girl enter the world. And it wasn't until a few days later that things started to really set in and get a little more frightening as some of her challenges started to emerge.
Understood, yeah. So as days went on, that's when you realized what the situation was really?
To some degree. Early on, Maiya was a preemie, so she was a little tiny at birth, and she had some preemie complications, required a few surgeries, was able to come home from the NICU after 11 weeks, so that was a big blessing, just in time for Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Oh wow, so just in time for Thanksgiving to have some time with the family.
Yes, just in time for everyone to get to be thankful, not just for her, but that she was home. And then as she started to get older, we noticed a few developing idiosyncrasies.
Okay.
So it wasn't until she was closer to 9-10 months that we really realized something might not be right.
Right. So what is Maiya's condition then?
Well, so that is an interesting question. Maiya has a genetic mutation that is actually very rare. We call her a unicorn because she's actually the only person with that particular expression of the genetic mutation. And it falls under the category of something called Albrecht's hereditary osteodystrophy, which is a lot of words to create a lot of classifications, which sometimes don't make a lot of sense, even to me as her mom. But she does have some continued chronic challenges from that.
Okay. Now, what made you think about adopting Michael with what was going on with Maiya?
So my husband and I met Michael with our daughter Maiya, and actually they were the first to connect, Maiya and Michael. They would play with each other. They had correlating hospital stays from time to time. And initially we had just decided to become foster parents. There's a high population of children, particularly with medical needs, that just need a temporary foster home until maybe their birth families or biological families are able to care for them. And then it became months later that we were approached and asked if we would be lucky enough to have Michael become part of our family. And for my husband and I, he was part of our family from the moment we met him.
That is just so wonderful. I mean, you've seen a need to take care of somebody, Michael, and even more so than Michael, you knew that there was a need and you went to take care of it, and that is just so wonderful. And I admire you for stepping outside, you know, what you were challenged with as a mother of Maiya, and then again taking on Michael. So what is Michael's condition?
Michael has something called short gut syndrome, post-secondary to a condition called gastroschisis. So very easy, his inside organs were outside of his body when he was born, and he lost part of his intestines, so he has a hard time absorbing nutrients and getting full feed, calories and things, so his growth is a little delayed. A long-term problem, he currently is dependent on enteral feed, so G-tube feedings, with some in and out medical needs that are a little more higher level care.
Understood. Okay. So that was actually interesting going on to my next kind of question. Will Maiya and Michael need like long-term care?
They will. So, you know, it's actually probably, I'm sure our physicians would even say that they would love to tell me exactly what they will need, exactly how long, exactly when. That is the one blessing of being their mom and the one curse. I've learned that I don't get to know that, but it has given me a chance to try to figure out how to be okay with that. But they are chronic, long-term, lifelong illnesses and challenges.
And you're ready for that?
I am.
Wonderful. That is just wonderful. So how old are Maiya and Michael?
Currently, they are what we call Big 8 and Little 8 for the next week.
I love it.
Maiya turns 9 next Tuesday.
Oh, happy early birthday, Maiya.
So they are very close in age. They're about 8 months apart.
Oh, wonderful. That is, so they're so close in age, they can kind of, you know, share that time together. You know, with me and my brothers, we're all 2 years apart, so we're able to kind of still be close in age, and that is so nice.
It's great. They used to, it was tell everyone they were twins, and then they figured out that
And
they
no one
weren't. Then they
probably-
figured out they weren't twins. But they definitely have a unique bond. I have siblings. I'm incredibly close to my siblings, and I think their bond even rivals ours.
Wow. Now, what challenges did you face at first?
Initially, I think the biggest thing was the shock. When Maiya was born, she showed up quite early. My husband and I were lucky enough that we had a lot of support from family, from friends, employers at the time, and it was just that adjustment. I think as we've gone through things, there have been different challenges at different times. We've had some financial concerns. We've had those moments of, I don't know that I can do another day of this.
Right. Because it does become challenging.
It does.
And so that makes sense. You know, so you try to, I'm assuming, really just try to take a positive stance as much as you can.
I did for the longest time, actually, and I realized that was one of the most exhausting things. Is it can be very isolating to have a child with medical needs, let alone two, and pretending that everything is always wonderful and always okay. I really isolated myself that way, and then it wasn't until I was able to open up outside of that and say, well, I need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's where I've made a lot of great connections in the community with a number of other families, even outside of Western New York.
Yeah. Now, what challenges do you face currently?
Well, a lot of it is getting dinner on the table at the right time. That can be a bit problematic.
Yeah.
I think our biggest challenge right now are scheduling, and from the trying to make doctor's appointments, but at the same time have a balance where my children are children.
Yeah.
And just letting them be that. And occasionally I'm a little overprotective about what you're allowed to do on the trampoline, but just giving that balance and letting them have a chance to just be kids. And I struggle with that a lot sometimes.
It has to be hard because you want to keep them as safe as possible, but you really want them to enjoy being kids, and that is wonderful. So you were nominated by the WarPaint project. Tell me how you met Aubre from the WarPaint project.
I actually met Aubre on happenstance. She had popped up on a social media, something, I believe it might have been Facebook, of do you know a warrior in your life? Do you have a warrior in your life? Would you want to nominate them for a painting? And I sent her an email and I was like, I have two. Would you be potentially able to do a painting for each of them? And she did, and she made them each their own. Maiya's is a unicorn fighting a dragon.
Oh, wow.
And we call her Princess Maiya the Mighty. And then Michael's is actually a knight in shining armor with Maiya's unicorn on his shield for our Prince Michael the Brave.
That is just such a wonderful work. I mean, Aubre and Joe take so much time and passion into crafting those paintings for everybody. And so how did that feel to get that gift from them?
They hang in the playroom over their desks, their homework rooms, and it's a reminder every time I walk in. If I'm having a bad day, if they're having a bad day, and I just can't do one more misstep, and I happen to walk through with a vacuum cleaner and I see my warriors. I see them sitting there, and it really has inspired me to do more. I have talked to Aubre and Joe occasionally and helped do some of the inside the box things that go with some of those paintings for other children who may need things.
So now you're pitching in and when you can to also help other families who are going through similar challenges to you. And it's such a wonderful thing that Aubre and Joseph were able to give you those gifts. So what is it like in a day of waking up and living your everyday life? What is your schedule like?
It changes a little bit, particularly this summer, but for the most part, it is, getting up early. My husband and I both try to fit in a little self-care in the morning, which doesn't always happen.
But it's very important.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very important to try to do and balance some of that, but it's getting up, showers to unhook, after unhooking feeds, refilling medications. Both of the kids have a number of medications that they take that are timed throughout the day. Just doing some of the basic, normal hygiene care. And then also the meal prepping is done a lot in our house ahead of time. During the school year, it's great. They go out the door.
And they get to go to school.
They get to go to school. And
someone else can make their lunch.
And my son has provided his care there. He has an RN that goes to school with him to make sure that he's safe. And it really is a typical day, and it's hard for me to explain because in our lives it is a typical day, but it's a lot when you start breaking it down. I think that's different for others.
I could imagine. And so, what was it like with Michael and Maiya, being in the hospital for so long, you know, how was that challenge? What was it like?
The first time around with Maiya, it was a little easier. She was just our only Maiya. Michael's actually been hospitalized frequently and for very long durations, which is when things become a bit more difficult. His upward stay, he did 10 months in the Children's Hospital back home.
That is a long time.
And it's a lot of balance. My husband and I joked that we became ships in the night. One of us got up early. I would get up 4 o'clock in the morning to be to the Children's Hospital to hang out with my little guy before going to work. And then he would go up after work while I took care of our daughter so that he could hang out with our little guy and have dinner and put him to bed. So it was a lot of back and forth, shuttling and trying to figure out time schedules and things. It's hard.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine, but it as parents, though, it really shows your commitment to each other to take care of Maiya and Michael, no matter whatever the cost is, and that is so wonderful. What challenges or what, you know, for the kids, is there any challenges with other kids maybe at school or anything like that? Or?
So I think there have been, in the past, there have been some things. The kids are very tiny, so they're getting to the age where children are starting to notice differences. We have a pretty close-knit school community who've been very supportive. But there are things that have been different. Michael has required some occupational therapy, physical therapy in school, Maiya as well. There's changes to their environments for them to be able to maneuver them a little easier, or be able to reach the whiteboard or the smart board, whatever it's called these days.
Understood. So basically those day-to-day things do change a little bit, but Maiya and Michael, it seems that they have a bright outlook.
I think that just with us, they have a bright outlook. And I don't mean if we were the only ones looking at them. I think they have a bright outlook because
of what you do.
Because we have each other.
I would say, and from an outside view, you're their warrior. And it is wonderful. We'll be back to finish the conversation right after this message.